What is up, soul family? Coming at you with another collective reading. If you are looking for messages from your angels, ancestors, guides, even if they might be unconventional, I think we can draw wisdom from every aspect of creation. If you're looking for a private reading, I do them for $20 for your first time. It'll be $20 for 20 minutes. You can ask whatever questions you want, or I can just pull and see what comes out. And if for whatever reason it doesn't resonate, then I'll just refund you. Now that being said, let's jump right in. Alright, so I shuffled and I got like 3 of the same cards from the last reading, so I kind of just restarted. Maybe they're meant to come through, maybe not, but I mean either way. So first one we have is Bridge, and that is successfully overcoming a problem. We have Tankard with celebration, fun, enjoyment. Marriage, I guess it's kind of self-explanatory. And then last but not least, we have Broken Bridge. Interesting. We have Bridge and Broken Bridge. Unsuccessful outcome to a problem. Let's see what this is all about. Maybe we've got a lot of problems and one of them didn't work out and one of them did. It could just be as simple as that. But sometimes it's also interesting. Sometimes, like, things don't seem to work out, but then, like, so one of the things that I heard that kind of shifted my perspective about manifestation, about, like, things in general, is, like, what makes you assume that this isn't the fastest way to get you to where you want to get to? And I think it's really oftentimes easy to, it's obviously when things are going very wrong and chaotic and things are kind of tumultuous, like where we're experiencing things, it's more likely to view it as something going wrong. But sometimes it is exactly what we're asking for being given to us in a way that we simply didn't expect. And it's not always fun. It's not always pleasant. I'm not going to act like it is for a second. But sometimes that's just simply how energy rearranges itself or responds to the intentions that we have set. So sometimes it's not exactly like we are inherently wanting to experience or do something. It's just that might be the fastest path to, or fastest way to get to what we want to get to. So maybe in one way, the outcome wasn't what we were hoping for. And then and then in another, it worked out to be better in the longest run. But, let's see. So then, yeah, we have the Six of Pentacles. So maybe you were, especially with marriage, maybe you were considering marrying somebody, and maybe it was the energy of you loving this person so dearly, but you gave so much time and effort, and it wasn't reciprocated. There's so many times, like, where the Six of Pentacles will pop out, like, when we are being very generous or giving, but we're not always balancing that out and then receiving that exact same grace that we're giving out. Or maybe you just got married and maybe you just had the very positive experience of being able to connect with another person and things are actually going really well. And maybe you're in a phase where maybe things didn't initially work out the way that both you guys wanted to as far as whatever plans you guys had, but maybe you're on your way to resolving that or to something different. And then with the Seven of Cups that fell out, it makes me feel as if there's definitely the energy of sometimes we just have, like, the Seven of Cups is like the energy of sometimes, yeah, there being scattered energy, but sometimes it's the energy of there just being many options. And sometimes we are in a position to have different options to go down. Like, for instance, if a celebrity were to, for whatever reason, go bankrupt, they might, of course, look for a 9-to-5 job. I'm not saying that might not happen. It happens all the time. But what's more likely for them to do is they might look for different opportunities in different realms. So the opportunities that they have are reflective of still who they are and where they are within their journey. And you never know what is available to you from the stance or from the perspective that you're standing in. So a lot of times it's all about what you do moving forward and how you can go and, like, I guess, like, work with what you got to for the lack of better words. I feel like I say that a lot, but realistically that is a lot of what manifestation and a lot of what being human is. It's doing what you can from where you are, and that's all you could ever really do is work from that standpoint, work from that perspective. And I think sometimes we get very ahead of ourselves trying to control a lot of other things, and in reality all we ever have to do is, like, worry about, like, what's happening now, and then from there we can, for the most part, shift and create the future. So sometimes just because something didn't work out in the moment doesn't mean that it can't in the future. And then we have the Empress energy. So I think we're definitely stepping into, like, because the Empress, whenever I think about an Empress, I think about, like, King Arthur. I think about the show Merlin, the BBC version. And then I think about Guinevere, how she was such a loving, kind empress, or queen, I should say. But at the very same time, she was still very strict when she needed to be. She was still very just, and she was still very intelligent and very grounded in how she approached taking care of the kingdom. So a lot of times I think it's a matter of maybe approaching whatever situation this is from that same standpoint and embodying that Empress energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be just because something is a rule and just because something has to be a little bit more black and white, or there's like a strong boundary that has to be set. It doesn't have to be set in an unkind way. She was still able to enforce rules and enforce her power with love and compassion and kindness. And I think that's one of the biggest traits of the Empress. So with whatever you guys are tackling or going through, I think the biggest call is to approach it with a little bit more of a loving, compassionate perspective, even if it's just to yourself, versus trying to be too stubborn. I wouldn't say too stubborn like the Emperor, but sometimes the Emperor energy is very much so like, I'm going to kind of like overpower a situation, or masculine energy can be very kind of like determined or very disciplined or very driven. So I think sometimes it's like a little bit less action oriented, and it's kind of like stepping into that more soft, more graceful energy to resolve whatever problems that we're facing. And then we have, the Queen of Cups too. So the Queen of Cups is all about love and compassion and kindness and tapping into your emotions. Like, human men and humans in general genuinely think that a lack of empathy is a positive thing. They really think that not being able to compare, not being able to empathize and be compassionate to other beings, and they think the concept of just strictly logic is what gets things done. In reality, it's one of the most dangerous flaws that people embody, to be completely honest. And I think it's one of those things like where they think it shows higher emotional intelligence, but what shows higher emotional intelligence is actually being able to account for other individuals around you and the people that you are making choices that they might affect, including yourself. And it's not always saying you have to go out of your way to bend over backwards to please people. I'm not saying that at all. But there is still a level of being kind and compassionate with how you approach and resolve situations that can make all the difference in not only your experience, but then other people's experiences. And then on the bottom of the deck, we have, funny enough, the Emperor. So maybe it's genuinely a matter of balance. And maybe this would make sense. It is marriage, so there is the energy of the Emperor and the Empress. So maybe it's a matter of both of you guys learning how to balance out these energies. A lot of times I see there be like one guy who's super masculine, one person who's super feminine, and maybe it's a matter of balancing out how both of you guys approach these energies. You can be in your masculine energy, but then still have it balanced out with your feminine energy, but then still predominantly reside in a masculine state, and vice versa. You can still have certain aspects of your feminine energy be dominant, but then still embody and then still balance out masculine energy too. So both the Emperor and the Empress both coming out, I'd like to think that it's pointing towards you guys collaborating and working together in unison. And it's a very powerful combination to have in creation, the Emperor and the Empress. It's like these are literally the two major arcana of a couple, I'd say. So I think it's definitely pointing towards not leaning too much into being too kind and too compassionate and too loving, but at the same time not being, too hard and too strict and too rigid in how you approach things. Yes, being really mindful and compassionate and loving and caring about how you approach yourself, but at the same time still being disciplined, still being driven, still working hard with whatever situation there is. So I think there's definitely a balance to be had when both pop up in the way that they did in this case. Although I'm still going to definitely lean to there being more kindness and compassion, especially since the Queen of Cups came out and the Empress came out first. I think there's definitely the energy of course, leaning in on making sure that you still approach things with that loving, caring energy. You can still be a king, you can still be just, you can still be very logical and rational, and still be very caring and loving. But either way, peace and blessings, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.